What is up, everybody? It's Talk here. Welcome back to another standalone. Today we're going to be reading a different book. I was facing this way last time. Let's face this way this time just to switch it up. And it's going to be, I don't know how long any of these books are. Some of them might be longer than others. This one's Immortal Blood. I think it has to do with vampires. And since I was reading Twilight, still kind of am on my Twitch. I don't know if I'm finishing it or not right now. It's a lot. There's a lot of unknowns at the moment. I've played Skyrim a couple of times. I've never beat the entire game. Oh crap. My controller died. I'll be right back. I've played Skyrim a couple times. I've never beaten the game. I don't even think I've beaten the Civil Wars or anything like that. I've joined both sides, but I don't think I ever completed either one of them. Regardless, the one time I got very, very far, I did the Dawnguard DLC, where you talk to the vampires and stuff, and admittedly, that Serena girl, like, I think I got a little too close to her, because, you know, those vampires, they have a way to do that, and I became a vampire, and I didn't have a save file, so I went with it, but eventually, I just didn't vibe with it. I didn't like it. I didn't like only being able to go out at night, and it was tough, because there's no cure for it, I'm pretty sure. Maybe there is, I couldn't find it, and then eventually I just went down. I remember you can also become a werewolf, and I chose not to do it. I actively, like, got to the very end, and I think I just didn't do it, so maybe I made a different choice there. But I think it's still good to read about the ancestors, because this character is not a vampire. I don't plan for them to become a vampire. If I ever do the Dawnguard DLC, I'm going to be very careful not to acquire vampirism. I think even here I had to fight a vampire during one of the missions that I had. I think you hear it in Alva's journal, if you read this one. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's Alva, but either way, it was a good story. I forget what town it was in. Regardless, I'm gonna read about. I'm just gonna read this one. I chose it. Like I said in the last summer standalone, I know that people really liked this series type thing of reading the books in Elder Scrolls. There's so many of them, so I think it's possible that I do keep collecting them throughout my gameplay, and maybe in a time I can make a series reading like all of them somehow steadily. But for now, let's just go one at a time and worry about the future later. There will be another standalone next week, but not of Skyrim. This will be the last book for now. So, Immortal Blood, and it's by Anonymous, which means we don't know who wrote it. The moons and stars were hidden from sight, making that particular quiet night especially dark. The town guard had to carry torches to make their rounds, but the man who came to call at my chapel carried no light with him. I came to learn that Movarth Pequeen could see in the dark almost as well as the light. An excellent talent, considering his interests were exclusively nocturnal. One of my acolytes brought him to me, and from the look of him, I at first thought he was in need of healing. He was pale to the point of opalescence, with a face that looked like it had once been very handsome before some unspeakable suffering. The dark circles under his eyes bespoke exhaustion, but the eyes themselves were alert, intense, almost insane. He quickly dismissed my notion that he himself was ill, though he did not want to discuss a specific disease. Vampirism, he said, and then paused at my quizzical look. I was told that you were someone I should seek out for help understanding it. Who told you that? I asked with a smile. Tessina Gray. I immediately remembered her, a brave, beautiful knight who had needed my assistance separating fact from fiction on the subject of the vampire. It had been 2 years and I had never heard whether my advice had proved effective. You've spoken to her? How is her ladyship? I asked. Dead, Movarth replied coldly, and then, responding to my shock, he added to perhaps soften the blow. She said your advice was invaluable, at least for the one vampire. When last I talked to her, she was tracking another. It killed her. Then the advice I gave her was not enough, I sighed. Why do you think it would be enough for you? I was a teacher once myself, years ago, he said. Not in a university, a trainer in the Fighters Guild. I wonder if that exists in this game. I've never heard of it. But even the Thieves Guild, which is a little bit more popular, most people I think have heard of, and I went through that, but I mean, there are some missions in this game where you gotta fight barehanded, and I'm not very good at that, so maybe I could learn that somehow. But I know that if a student doesn't ask the right questions, the teacher cannot be responsible for his failure. I intend to ask you the right questions. And that he did. For hours, he asked questions, and I answered what I could, but he never volunteered any information about himself. He never smiled. He only studied me with those intense eyes of his, committing every word I said to memory. Finally, I turned the questioning around. You said you were a trainer at the Fighters Guild. Are you on an assignment for them? No, he said curtly. And finally, I could detect some weariness in those feverish eyes of his. I would like to continue this tomorrow night, if I could. I need to get some sleep and absorb this. You sleep during the day, I smiled. To my surprise, he returned the smile, though it was more of a grimace. When tracking your prey, you adapt their habits. The next day, he did return with more questions, these ones very specific. He wanted to know about the vampires of Eastern Skyrim. I told him about the most powerful tribe, the Volkihar, paranoid and cruel, whose very breath could freeze their victims' blood in the veins. I explained to him how they lived beneath the ice of remote and haunted lakes, never venturing into the world of men except to feed. Movarth Pequeen listened carefully and asked more questions into the night, until at last he was ready to leave. So I don't even know if it's about asking the right questions or just asking a lot of them. I will not see you for a few days, he said, but I will return and tell you how helpful your information has been. True to his word, the man returned to my chapel shortly after midnight 4 days later. There was a fresh scar on his cheek, but he was smiling that grim but satisfied smile of his. Your advice helped me very much, he said, but you should know that the Volkihar have an additional ability you didn't mention. They can reach through the ice of their lakes without breaking it. It was quite a nasty surprise, being grabbed from below without any warning. How remarkable, I said with a laugh, and terrifying. You're lucky you survived. I don't believe in luck. I believe in knowledge and training. Your information helped me, and my skill at melee combat sealed the bloodsucker's fate. I've never believed in weaponry of any kind. Too many unknowns. Even the best swordsmith has created a flawed blade, but you know what your body is capable of. The body is very strong, and we know who created that. So I can see where even the best swordsman could fall short. Even the best mechanic can fall short. The best engineer, the best anything. But I guess, I don't know. I would argue that that wouldn't make them the best. But I guess we're only human. We make mistakes. I know I can land 1,000 blows without losing my balance, provided I get the first strike. The first strike, I murmured. So you must never be surprised. That is why I came to you, said Movarth. You know more than anyone alive about these monsters and all their cursed varieties across the land. Now you must tell me about the vampires of northern Valenwood. Maybe he wants revenge? I don't know. I've heard about Valenwood, I just don't know where. It's ringing a bell. I did as he asked, and once again his questions taxed my knowledge. There were many tribes to cover. The Bonsmu, who were indistinguishable from Bosmer except when seen by candlelight. The Kirlith, who could disintegrate into mist. The Yekif, who swallowed men whole. The dread Telboth, who preyed on children, eventually taking their place in the family, waiting patiently for years before murdering them all in their unnatural hunger. Once again he bade me farewell, promising to return in a few weeks, and once again he returned as he said, just after midnight. This time, Movarth had no fresh scars, but he again had new information. You were wrong about the Kirlith being unable to vaporize when pushed underwater, he said, patting my shoulder fondly. Fortunately, they cannot travel far in their mist form, and I was able to track it down. It must have surprised it fearfully. Your field knowledge is becoming impressive, I said. I should have had an acolyte like you decades ago. Now tell me, he said, of the vampires of Cyrodiil. So he didn't seem interested at all in the praise that he just received. He kind of just expected it. I told him what I could. There was but one tribe in Cyrodiil, a powerful clan who had ousted all other competitors, much like the Imperials themselves had done. Their true name was unknown, lost in history, but they were experts at concealment. If they kept themselves well fed, they were indistinguishable from living persons. They were cultured, more civilized than the vampires of the provinces, preferring to feed on victims while they were asleep, unaware. They will be difficult to surprise, Movarth frowned. But I will seek one out and tell you what I learned, and then you will tell me of the vampires of High Rock, and Hammerfell, and Elsewhere, and Black Marsh, and Morrowind, and the Somerset Isles. Yes? I nodded, knowing then that this was a man on an eternal quest. He wouldn't be satisfied with but the barest hint of how things were. He needed to know it all. He did not return for a month, and on the night that he did, I could see his frustration and despair, though there were no lights burning in my chapel. I failed, he said, as I lit a candle. You were right. I could not find a single one. I brought the light up to my face and smiled. He was surprised, even stunned, by the pallor of my flesh, the dark hunger in my ageless eyes, and the teeth. Oh, yes. I think the teeth definitely surprised the man who could not afford to be surprised. I haven't fed in 72 hours, I explained, as I fell on him. He did not land the first blow, or the last. Cool. So that Movarth Pequeen, I think I recognize that name from one of the missions I played. It's cool to see how his origins came about. I didn't realize it until after I started reading it. Yeah, it's by an anonymous writer. I bet I wouldn't be surprised if it was the person himself. I'm probably gonna have to reread this a little bit, and I usually do while I edit it, because I'm curious. Yeah, I don't think we ever heard who was the person speaking. That's fascinating. So fascinating. I love the way they do this in these books. It's true. These are some very, very good books, and there's so many of them. You just gotta make time to read them. Yeah, I guess that'll be that. We'll see what happens next time and when I can read more of these books. I don't know how many... I don't even know where I got some of these. I think I have been picking some up. This one's valuable for some reason. So, I don't know. I'll see what I do. It probably won't be for a while. I'll try and pick up more. I don't really want to know what the books are about, but they do seem to have varying levels of, I guess, skill would be the right word. Like, some books are harder to read than others. There's, like, longer books. There's more vocabulary-intensive books. There's stories that are deeper, more difficult, more challenging. Yeah, but reading's very interesting. I definitely recommend doing it in your life if you can find time for it, even if it's in small bouts. Just things that you've always wanted to read but never made time for. But, yeah, it looks like my character in Skyrim can also experience that as well. So, yeah. How do I, go? Yep. This is 6. It is indeed 6. So she's still gotta get stronger to be able to face Jari Raw, which is lights out. If you want to see the first part of that, you can check out my Christmas special in the specials playlist a while ago. It's Get Rich Quick Schemes Never Work. I do want to make a second part to that eventually. But for now, let's just end it there. On that note, it's been talk. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content, and I hope you enjoy your night, evening, morning, whatever it is that you're doing. Stay awesome. Peace out.